Good evening. Welcome to the Spiritual but Not Religious show. I'm your host, George Lewis. Well, we've been off for a couple of months now, since before Christmas. Actually, not a couple of months, but somewhere close to a month and a half. And it's been great having a little time off, but I've also missed being here and talking with some of these great guests that we have on. In the process of all this, we've actually moved the studio, and we're close to the beach here in Sarasota. If you're familiar with Sarasota, Florida, we're on Osprey and Siesta Drive. We're perched right on top of the Royal Canadian Bank here, RCB, Royal Bank, RBC, I guess, is Royal Bank of Canada. So, as a matter of fact, that our guest tonight is from Canada. But before I get into telling you about our guest, I want to talk a little bit about the Spiritual Broadcasting Network and what we've been doing and why we're doing it. This is actually our third year of broadcasting. It's gone by pretty quickly. Our whole thrust has been to help to really speak to as many people as we can with the idea that there really is a consciousness shift in process. It's been going on for quite a while, but you know, if you're in the right circles, you start to see just how many people have come in the last, especially the last couple 3 years, who are aware that there's something going on, some kind of transformation. And then, of course, 2012, you know, that's put a lot of attention on the idea that there's some kind of thing going on. Unfortunately, the Mayans saw it as being the end of the world. Destruction of the world. My personal view, and I do hope I'm right on this, that it will be the end of the old world view, where the dark side really holds sway. And you know, I think when this transformation occurs, that we may not even know that it occurred. When you go back in history, you can see some real shifts in consciousness, like the difference between the Dark Ages and the Renaissance. It happened over a period of a few years. There was no real point in time where it said, okay, we've gone from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance, because there was a huge difference in consciousness and how the world worked at that time. So that's what we've been doing. We've been talking about that, trying to get any new minds that we can to be thinking about in that kind of terms. Our guests are of that ilk. We usually have authors on, authors and artists who are really on the cutting edge of consciousness transformation. As you can see, the name of the show is Spiritual but Not Religious. Here in the States, we're finding a big shift away from religion and religious to really a group of people, a large group of people, probably 20–25% of our population now doesn't go to church and don't see themselves as religious, but see themselves rather as spiritual, and that's pretty much the audience that we really project to, and the kind of guests that we have on. So. Be sure and come back. We're on every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you got an internet connection, you can catch us from anywhere in the world. And normally we have a telephone line. You can see it. You'll see it right there on the screen that you can call in. However, the one thing we had problems with tonight is that phone line. So next week we'll have that available. However, right below the video that you're watching, there's a little chat box, and Tom, as the engineer here, he produces the show, and he'll be monitoring that chat box. So if you have a question for our guest or for myself, just put it in there, and Tom will be glad to relay it to me, and we'll see if we can't bring you into the discussion. So, and I thank you for showing up tonight. I'm sure I know a lot of you from Facebook. We really get an opportunity to meet a diverse group of people. Facebook has been, and the internet has been, probably without the internet, we would not be having this consciousness shift that we're looking at. My guest tonight is Carl Stedmond. Carl is a musician, a singer, a writer. I believe he has a book in process. He's got a CD that he's got out. We're going to play you some of his music and have a conversation with Carl. Carl is very much tuned in to like what we're doing here on the show. We're connected up on Facebook. From what I can see, he's just a really good guy. He hails from Toronto, Canada, Toronto, Ontario. So, Tom, we got Carl on the line?
Yes, we do.
Carl, are you able to hear me? Hey, Carl.
Yeah, hi.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good, thanks for your patience. I see you waiting there pretty patiently. Hey, the video looks pretty good. I'm glad it's working out. We had a little trouble in the beginning, but not now.
That's great.
So Carl, you're from Toronto, huh?
I'm from Toronto. Originally, I'm from the north of England, Birkenhead, just by Liverpool.
Right.
But I live in Toronto now, George.
How long have you been in Toronto?
Since 1988.
88. So you're Liverpool. So you're a Beatles guy.
I love the Beatles. Yeah, gotta admit it. I love them.
Well,
I love their energy.
Here in the States, that's how we know Liverpool. We know London, and we know something about the country, but Liverpool is the Beatles to us.
I know. I'm actually from across the water from Liverpool, George. A place called Birkenhead. But it's about like 10 minutes across. You probably heard the song "Ferry Across the Mersey."
Yes.
That's where I'm from.
Oh, really? Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I suppose like the song is cool, but was it cool to you?
Yeah, actually it was. Yeah, it was. I loved the song.
Well, no, I mean, living where you lived.
To be honest, it was. Liverpool's a dock city, and it's quite rough. So I grew up learning how to protect myself, shall we say?
Well, yeah, that was my impression of Liverpool. From what I had heard, it was a pretty tough town. Well,
yeah, it is.
You were in a wheelchair for part of your life, right? Were you in England at that time, or were you in Canada by that time?
Yeah, at the age of 8, I was in a wheelchair for 3 years.
What was the cause?
It's something called Perthes disease. It's a disease of the hip bone, and it's a deterioration of the hip, ball in socket. And at that time, and that's going back a long, long time ago, you could have had surgery, but my father chose the natural way, which I feel very lucky that he done that, because I was told at an early age that, because I started karate when I was 14, and then I was told I couldn't do it at the age of 16, but I persevered, and I still teach to this day,
So your father was really tuned into the homeopathic kind of natural healing? Is that what it was?
Do you know what, George? When I look back, he passed away actually about 12 years ago. But yeah, absolutely. My father never allowed us to have any injections ever in our life, and I've never been ill. I've never had a doctor in my life,
Right.
And I look back at that and I think, wow, that he was there, but I didn't really realize he was there 12 years ago because I wasn't.
What was his spiritual background? Was he a religious man, or?
Not really, George, to be honest. I know I wrote my first song, Sin to the Father, but that was more of basically where we were brought up and the school that we were in, things like that. We was brought up Roman Catholics, but my father never really pushed it on us. We went to church now and again. We went on Christmas and that. But my dad was really open to every religion. But the song itself is based on where we grew up and the separatism that religion caused. And not just religion too, separatism within. I've seen the most horrendous violence just because one team was wearing red and another soccer team, football team, was wearing blue. So that song is not just about religion, it's about all separatism,
Yeah, well, I think that's the biggest issue that we have in the world, is this whole idea that because we're different, that, like we should kill each other, really, or damage each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to play, because we started talking about now, we're going to play that song, Sins of the Father,
Right.
for our audience. Now, you named your album a very interesting name. You want to...
The Diary of an Uneducated Man.
Right. So, which begs the question: do you don't appear to be an uneducated man?
I missed a lot of school as a kid, George.
Were you skipping school, or was that because you were ill?
Well, I skipped school as well, yeah. I've got to admit it, I did.
Yeah.
I never liked school, but again, I look back now and I think, well, I was quite lucky because I wasn't really indoctrinated into a lot of stuff that I see that they still teach to this day, and they don't give out the wisdom that they could do and should do. But yeah, I left school at the age of 14. Most of my learning happened for me when I left school because I wanted to know more about life. So I never had an education.
I got you.
Formal education.
Yeah, I'm the same way, but I educated myself.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you did. Okay,
Yeah.
Tom, let's hear Sins of the Father.
But Dad, ignorance about God has caused separation, misery and conflict since the beginning of time. My father told me long ago his dad told him as well, you know. Our faith is the only one. Great granddad said, but now he's gone. They said, don't listen to what others say. Our God's the one, so let us pray. And we believe we know we're right. They are misled in search of truth and light. Sins of the Father and thy mother towards me and my brother. Forgive them, please. They know not what they do. One God, one love, I know this to be true. Ignorance, it's in the past. God is love, let's make it last. Sharing and compassion, be the winds of change and make it happen. Oh yeah. Sins of the Father and thy mother
That's a great song, Carl. That song was the one that first really brought you into my attention. And
Oh, thanks, George.
yeah, I really appreciate your music. I appreciate what you're doing with it. From what I see, it's a lot easier to make money. Talking about the regular things, stuff you hear in rap and all that. And this is like such an opposite of that. Tell us where they can pick up your CD, Marty. You know what? I'm sorry I called you Marty. Let me tell you why. I have a friend. I have a good friend who's now living in Utah. You are a twin, an absolute spitting image of each other. So.
Oh, is that handsome? Is he?
As a matter of fact, he is, Carl. He's a good-looking guy, and he's a musician.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I've been called worse than Marty, George.
Well, he's not a doppelganger for you. He's a good guy like you. So.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Thanks.
That's a good thing. So what? We hear the problem, and I think this may be the biggest issue that we have. Certainly separatism is a problem.
Yes.
We become exclusive because of our beliefs, or exclusive
yes.
because of our jobs, or we exclude people rather than be inclusive with them. But when you look at what's gone on with religion since time began and we first decided that we were going to be religious,
yes.
We've been at war.
Yes.
We've been at war.
Yeah.
And it's not really any different today than it was then. Certainly America is embroiled in, although it's in the extremist, level, it's still about a belief system.
Right.
So
yeah. I think all religions point to it, George, but I think they've been so misconstrued in the message basically in all religions is love and peace, and oneness. But then you get the fanatics in the religions who then want to fight to prove their point, right? And I think that's where if we can all just agree that it's love and light. If you believe in a higher power or God, I think the word God has been so misused, because people fight for their God and kill for their God. And I think if we can all just realize that, God is love, God is light, God is an energy, God is divine. And I think more people are waking up to that, though, George, now, eh?
Well, I think you're right, and that's really, I think that's really what's going on now. More people are awakening.
Yes.
And Marty, I think we reach a place where we hit a tipping point.
Yes.
When we hit enough people, and it doesn't need to be half or 51%.
Yeah.
I don't think in order to make that change. I don't see any other way for a solution. Do you?
No, absolutely not. I think we talk about 2012, and I speak to people all day long, George, from all over the world, and they're telling me about the great things that are starting to happen in their communities that we don't see on the media and on the news,
Absolutely.
Because I think most of us know that the agenda with that is a lot of it's fear, and we know fear is an energy, as is love. And the energies that's coming to the planet right now, the frequency is a lot higher, so people are awakening. And I'm finding people are awakening. I had a fantastic experience about 6 years ago. I had an experience with light, and it changed my life forever. But I was already looking for something more because I'd come through a lot of pain. I think pain is a great awakener, So I understand that people are starting to awaken, but they feel a bit mixed up because they're in this world, but not of this world. And they're starting to get that, but it's not an easy thing when the majority of people around you, friends, family, because we seem to incarnate into a family that doesn't get us. And so all of a sudden you've got the mass of people. The majority of people are not really understanding. So people are awakening up, but they're feeling what's going on because they're listening to the heart more rather than the mind, and they're not being as controlled by their own ego because they're more in tune with who they are. And I definitely think there's a huge awakening happening right now, yeah?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. You know, the big problem with paying attention to the mind is that the first place it wants to go is to the negative.
Absolutely.
And that's why the news channels are able to sell all the fear and all the garbage they sell us, is because
Yes.
our predilection is to go to the negative rather than, and it takes, at least for me, it's taken some real training on my part to not really act on that first reaction I might have.
Yes.
Come back with some faith. So you were talking about a spiritual experience. Before we get into that, I think your next song that we have, Light, really speaks to that, doesn't it?
It is actually, yeah.
Well,
I wrote that song a week after the experience, George.
Well, why don't we play the song, and then we'll talk about the experience afterwards. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Tom, you wanna give us Light?
I saw the light today. I'm slowly moving on my way. My life flashing before me, a loving world that came to be. The part I play upon a stage, the songs and stories light my way. Love and light is oh so clear, coming closer every year. Each one of us will play our part. All we need is open heart. Messages are everywhere. What we see and what we hear, coincidental, meant to be. I need this love to set me free. I saw the light today. Slowly moving on my way. My life flashing before me, a loving world that came to be. The part I play upon a stage, the songs and stories light my way. Is the way it's supposed to be? The Creator's perfect symphony, voices talking in my head, are helping me to see. Coincidental, meant to be. I need this love to set me free. Help me now, help me to believe. I saw the light today. 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 I saw the light today.
So, Carl, it's been said that pain is the touchstone for spirituality.
Yes.
It certainly pushed me down the road.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that, if you're willing, maybe share us a little bit about, you know, you say you had this experience about 6 years ago?
Yeah, and before that, about 12 years ago, I went through a painful divorce, and within the same amount of time, within that couple of months, my father died, and I was running my own karate club, and I broke my ankle, and I needed surgery in my ankle. So all of a sudden, my father and my ex-wife were very, very close friends. We spent many hours together. So I lost both of them within a couple of months, and then I couldn't hardly walk to teach my classes. So it was very, very, very hard period in my life. But then one bad thought deserves another, as the law of attraction goes. So then I went through 6 years of heartache, relationships. I was in and out of love and very, very heartbroken. And at one point I was on the verge of suicide. And I basically got down on my knees and asked for a higher energy to tell me where I was going wrong, you know. And then all of a sudden I started to... books would be given to me, or I'd fall off the shelf, you know, like Eckhart Tolle. I read The Power of Now within a week for coming out, Neil Donald Walsh, and I started to understand that we do create our own reality by what we put out there. So I started to really look at my life and search for where I'd gone wrong, you know. And then one night I was actually meditating. I was in the bath, and I had an out-of-body experience, and my whole life flashed in front of me, so all the heartache and pain of like being in the wheelchair, because I went through an awful lot of bullying as a kid, because that's going back like 40 years ago. And at that time it wasn't as in the news as it is now. You know, people talk about it and you go and see your teacher. At that time it wasn't really... looked at as being that bad, and I had a big walking iron on my leg for another year after the 3 years of the wheelchair. So I went through an awful lot of abuse as a child, and I had no confidence. And so where was I heading with that?
Well, so a heartache really is what we're talking about. Kind of turned your head, made you look inward, right?
Well, and all these experiences, George, were in the light, because my whole life flashed in front of me, from growing up back home, with a very loving family and great friends, but I had a lot of heartache with the wheelchair, and then I emigrated, I left England, I come to Canada, and I left all my family in England, which is very, very hard too. So then all the pain and heartache that I'd gone through my life, and the divorce, my father's death, I lost 2 homes. I seen all this within this experience, but around this experience I was full of love. There was a love and energy that surrounded me, and it's hard to put into words the energy that I felt, but I knew it was something profound, if you want to call it God or the light, it was just a profound loving energy. And then I seen a sort of my future, where I was singing on the stage, actually. And then I come out of the experience, and then a week later I wrote the song, which was the first one I wrote, which was the one you just listened to, The Light.
Right. So you hadn't been writing songs up until that point?
No.
Had you been a singer, or this kind of was the start of all of this?
Do you know what, George? About 6 months prior to that, I really started to understand that we do create our own reality.
Right.
And I've always taught that to go for your dreams, even as a young kid. I've done a lot of stuff. I've always been self-employed. I've had martial arts clubs. And so I thought, well, I tell my students to go for your dreams. I want to be a singer. I'm going to be a singer. So I went out and bought me equipment and that. I'd never done it before, but I just bought backing tracks to go out on stage. But I hadn't written any songs until that experience with Light, and then the week later I wrote that. And I was very, very lucky to run into someone named Dan Clancy from the band Lighthouse, and I showed him my songs after I wrote the songs, and he brought all the instruments in and everything, you know.
You know, we have, I have a good friend here in Sarasota who has a sound studio called Spirit Ranch. And matter of fact, I just was doing a making of the album documentary with them at this point.
Wow.
For a new album they got coming out. You get down this way, I'll have to introduce you.
Sounds fantastic. I'd love to, George.
Yeah. Matter of fact, he won a couple Grammys for producing the Allman Brothers.
Wow.
If you remember the Allman Brothers. So,
yeah.
You know, one of the things I know about Toronto and up in that area, I have a lot of people that I know up there. It's a very spiritually and open and enlightened place, at least the part of it that I know of. Kind of
it is actually, George. Do you know what Toronto, the word Toronto means?
No.
It means the meeting place.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've met so many people from all over the world there.
Well, you see, Sarasota's like that. It's a real melting pot. We have people from everywhere. We have a beach called Siesta Key, and the sand is 99% quartz, which is a very powerful energy kind of a thing. So we really have kind of a vortex here, and I think, you know, Toronto and Sarasota could easily be sister cities. It's like
absolutely, they sound it, yeah.
Yeah. So you get down here, you get out of that cold weather at some point. I'll show you around. We'll have some coffee, have a good time together.
Sounds good to me.
I can't take the cold, Carl. I can, but I'm not willing to. It's like
actually, do you know what, George? This winter hasn't been cold at all, but I think it's what's happening all over the world with weather patterns and that. We're like at 9 degrees today. It's usually -10, and there's hardly any snow.
Right.
So I think, you know, a lot of we're getting a shift in many ways.
Well, you know, I was raised in Flint, Michigan, so we used to come down, you know, over Windsor, and then we come over Sarnia, you know, into Ontario there. London, I used to catch. I don't know if you've been in that end of your world.
Actually, I've got a niece who lives there, but I haven't been there yet. No.
Well, it was quite interesting to me that, you know, that you guys would be Sunday afternoon and everybody's dancing and drinking and having a great time, and you roll up the streets at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
At that time, so let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. You have a thing called Zen Light.
Zen Light. I'm actually not doing that much of that, George. I tried it, but it really didn't work, to be honest with you. So maybe at a later time it will pick up. But I teach martial arts. I teach karate, and I teach kickboxing as well. But since I had a huge shift, I love teaching kids. But I like to call it enlightened karate, because I do a lot of affirmations in my classes with the children. And at the end of every class, and I put this on emails, you might have read it, but at the end of every class I say to all my kids, what's the most important thing in the world, kids? And about 30 of them all shout, love, Sensei. So I teach them about the law of attraction in a way that kids will understand it. Well, kids understand it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I understand, especially with boys, a lot of boys and men and the dads, you know, you've got to be a tough guy in that.
Right.
But I like to teach the kids that, you know, we don't have to be a tough guy. We have to be a nice guy, you know, and martial arts is about self-empowerment. So I love to teach the kids the most important things in the world, which is like love and compassion, understanding, respect. And I do that throughout my whole class, you know. And I'm also just started counselling, George, as well. I charge $50 or by donation, so I'm always available to do that on Skype if anyone's interested. Because I feel that a lot of people are going through this shift now, and, you know, some of them are not understanding why they're feeling that way.
And your Skype name is Carl Stedmond, right?
Yes. Or they can just email me at my email address, which is cstedmond, CSTEDMOND, @yahoo.com.
Great. Well, I think they would benefit hugely from talking with you. Listen, I think this this thing about teaching children is really, really important, Carl. It's like,
Very.
you know, we might be helping to cause this transformation, but it's these young ones who are going to put it in play.
Absolutely, George. I say that to my kids all the time. When I say my kids, I mean my students, but absolutely.
Right.
And, yeah, very important to teach them about energy and the love energy, you know. And I love Dr. Emoto's work. So I talk to the kids about, you know, the water and the experiments and that. And that should be on national news, as we know, because there's evidence that we don't need to have just blind faith anymore, because science has proven to us what the spirituality is, what Jesus was saying, and Buddha and Krishna. Science has now proven this with the work of Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and HeartMath and Dr. Emoto, and you put all these pieces of jigsaw together and it's like, wow, there you go, you know. And these are the things that we should be teaching our children in school.
Absolutely. Well, let's back up just a minute for the viewers who aren't familiar with the water experiment you were talking about. Why don't you tell us about that so that they'll understand what you're talking about?
Okay, basically, you know, you can get a glass of water, and this was done under laboratory conditions with skeptics.
Right.
And a group of people will stand around this water and send loving thoughts to that water. Then that water is frozen, crystallized, and that crystal becomes a beautiful snowflake, and you can actually see, and one of them what Dr. Emoto done, you actually saw the like a heart take shape.
Right.
But the opposite happens with negative energy. So if you, which again was documented, proven scientifically in a laboratory, and the opposite happens to that with fear and hate and violence, and the same with words on that water. You can place words on the water. It takes a bit longer to activate with the words, but you can put love, compassion, and again it manifests in a beautiful crystal. They are mostly water, George, you know, as you know, and the earth is mostly water, and so thoughts are actual things. And well, people, it's not mainstream. Most people have never heard of that, you know.
Well, you know, I think, Carl, I think we tend to really think more highly of ourselves as human beings than I think we have a right to. You know, we don't really give credence to the idea that water would have some kind of consciousness, but I'm sure that's exactly what's going on. I'm a real animal lover, and you know, I'm one of those guys who talks to the animals, and they communicate. They have a consciousness. It may not be quite so specific as ours. Language has been a real huge thing as far as human consciousness is concerned, but I wonder if, you know, like I think even a blade of grass has a certain amount of consciousness.
Absolutely, George. There's been lots of books written on that as well.
Yeah.
Experiments about, you know, plants, and one was one of the gentlemen who's doing the experiment was only thinking about putting a match to the plant, and it showed up, it reacted, you know. Everything has consciousness.
Exactly.
And yeah, absolutely, George. Everything's connected, as we know.
Well, you know, I from the way I see the big problem is and it really goes back to the opposite of love or fear, and that's, you know, like our own basic insecurity.
Yes.
Which brings up that false pride and ego, or our dark side, you know, and it's like, and that side is where you find the greed and all of that. It's really held sway over our consciousness up to this point. I think,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how things are in Canada, but we really here in the States are having our own kind of Arab Spring. You know, it's like this. One of the best ways to get, there are two ways to get, you know, people's attention and cause change. One is, like with you, through their heart, and the other is through their wallet. And, and we've really been hit here, and I think, you know, a lot of people. How's Canada up there? You guys?
Same thing, George. I don't think it's quite as bad as the States, but a lot of people are really feeling the squeeze. Absolutely. And from people I've spoke to throughout the world, you know, they're going through a hard time. And I think that's why we're getting the Occupy movement, you know, where
absolutely.
No, there's enough on the planet for everyone. And it's only when that ego, and we talk about the big corporations and things like that, and their bottom line is money instead of, sustainability. And how can we work together, you know, because there's enough for us all.
Well, you know, I think, really, Carl, that all this stuff that's going on was essential. It's necessary to this transformation.
Absolutely.
You know, because, you know, we have our own consciousness, but it's like Jung talked about. There's that consciousness that's, you know, like everyone is part of.
Yes.
My brain, your mind, we're all part of that consciousness. And,
yes.
And that consciousness needs to go through the same process that the individual does. And
yeah, I agree, George, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're getting those numbers. We're getting forced into this pain. And it sounds bad, you know, and it's not great when you're going through it. But out the other side, we have a different world, like there was a different Carl.
Yes.
Because I'm sure you operate probably 180 degrees outside of the way you used to before your spiritual experience.
Absolutely, George. Well, what I've done, I opened a martial arts club up in Canada in 1989.
Uh-huh.
Called the Liverpool School of Martial Arts. But after my awakening, I say my awakening or my shift in consciousness, I actually changed the name to the Harmony Center. And there's a huge sign, like 44 feet by 12 feet, which proclaims love, peace, and harmony. And there's a huge Mayan sign there, which is about the shift that's coming now. It looks like a bit like a yin-yang sign, but it's a Mayan sign. It's about the shift in consciousness, you know. So everything I do now it's a lot different, and I like to teach in that way, absolutely. And I think it's like a fever that has to break. I think we're going through the fever that it's going to break, and there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me that you would have a karate school with that kind of a sign. That's did you catch the attention of the newspapers or the TV?
Oh yeah, George. No, and yeah, when people come in who get it, they are like they're blown away. And I've always wanted to do it, to be honest, since I had that awakening, because people would come in to me and ask me, well, what will my kid get out of this, you know? And
right.
And especially the dads, they always thought, I was going to say, he's going to be tough, he's going to be this. I said, well, he's going to understand that it's all about that. And I'd show him the sign which says love, peace, harmony. And they're a bit shocked.
I bet.
But after they train with me for a while, they understand, you know. I teach the children that courage comes from the energy of love. And I have friends who still don't get me anymore. And they still think I'm religious or I've gone soppy, and I try to, in a nice way, let them understand that it's an energy. It's not like a Hollywood love, because we know that is not the way true love is. Love is an unconditional thing for everyone, every animal, every person on the planet, no matter what color they are, no matter what religion we accept. We love, we're all connected, you know. And so I try and explain this to the kids, you know, that people with courage like Gandhi and Martin Luther, JFK, they changed the world through courage with the love that they had inside them in a peaceful way, you know.
Absolutely. Well, you know, when you mentioned JFK, he really symbolizes to me the potential for real transformation, because you know, we were talking earlier about, well, what's the solution going to be here to make the change? There really isn't one on the table, other than enough people believe it, right? But,
yes.
But when John Kennedy became president and he said, we're going to the moon within 10 years, we didn't have a clue how we were going to get to the moon.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was the intention.
Yes.
It was the intention, and that's what we're building, I believe, with all this talk that we have one with the other, that hey, there's a transformation coming. We intend it, and that's
absolutely.
To happen.
And as we know, that consciousness creates that, again, proven scientifically, that our attention with that focus is that's what we need to be focusing on, and not like the doom and gloom, but creating this new world, which what we're doing now, you know, which this station is fantastic, George. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's our pleasure for sure, Carl. So in your studio, were you consciously training heroes in your mind at that point?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
absolutely.
Your next song is about heroes. We're going to play that, and I want to talk some about heroes and the importance of heroes, even having them. So, Tom, you want to cue that up for us?
Stop, look around, things are a mess. Violence raging wild in our streets. We all live in fear, put to the test if we just look in our hearts and deep into our minds. The madness will end when we decide. Oh, out of the blue, come our heroes. Champions arise, stand up and fight. You can believe it. What have we done to the human race? Do you work hard every single day to make it a better place? Whoa, we've gotta make change if we're gonna survive. Let's rally today, everyone, to the battle cry. Out of the blue, come our heroes. Champions arise, stand up and fight. Do you believe it? We've gotta get up, stand up and shout for our heroes, making it right. Here they come, out of the blue. Come our heroes. Champions arise, stand up and fight. Got to believe it. Let's give it up, stand up and shout for our heroes. Champions arise, fight the good fight, defeating the ego, 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 defeating the
So, Carl, I want to tell you a little bit about what goes on. You know, Tom is over there, and he really does the screen switching and puts you up and me up and has all that going on. But the other thing that he does is that he's on Twitter and Facebook and all our social networking sites and talking to the people there, telling them what's going on here.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to do is we're going to have Tom put out there that your album's available on iTunes, correct?
Yes, that's brilliant.
And tell us your website, and Tom will put that out there for you also.
Okay, it's diaryofanuneducatedman.com.
There you go. Hey, speaking of that, when this will be available for viewing after as an archive, and I will send you the code, and you can put that in your website if you like.
That'd be great, George. Yeah, fabulous.
For the show, you've been a really good guest here, Carl. We're gonna run out of time here. I want to talk a bit about. I was kind of hoping to be able to get a lot more in than what we're going to do here, but that's not unusual when I get a really good guest.
Oh, thanks.
You have a line in that last song, "Things Are a Mess." I mean, that just pretty well sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when you wrote this song, did you have a particular hero in mind of your own?
To be honest, no one in particular, although I love all the great masters, like, I mean, Jesus came to our planet to teach love, and Gandhi, Martin Luther. I love people who really, truly come with love and peace to bring that energy into the world, you know, because it's not an easy thing to do. Like, I even find myself that people are against a message of love and peace, and it baffles me, you know. And, you know, I see our children exposed to so many things that are wrong in a hero that should be a hero for the kids, you know. Like over here, I mean, I know probably all the Canadians might be upset with me, but hockey, you've got a hockey star who will knock someone's teeth out on the ice as the referee steps back and watches it. And the next day, little Johnny gets expelled from school for defending himself, and then he goes home, lies in his bed, and the pictures adorning his wall are the guy he watched the night before knock someone's teeth out, who's getting paid millions of dollars. I think we've got it wrong there, you know. We need to teach children that is not the thing to do.
Yeah, well, it's pretty deep in our culture, you know. It's like we have, of course, hockey. We're playing hockey with you, and football down here, you know. It's like it's a huge thing. It's the competitive male ego. You know, we're out there. That kind of worked me over this idea of heroes. About 20 some years ago, it occurred to me, Carl, that I didn't have a hero.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not talking about Jesus as a hero, but I mean somebody who was contemporary.
Yes.
And my ego would not allow that, you know. And so I thought, well, I need to come up with somebody as a hero. And what I started looking around for was somebody who had a lot of power and was able to handle it appropriately and wisely.
Yes.
And one of the first men that I saw was Robert Redford. Here's this really handsome guy, and he's, you know, classy. He's able to make, you know, millions of dollars, and he never read anything negative about Redford.
Yes.
He handled that power, and he handled it well.
Yeah.
In my life, misuse of power is the thing that's caused me the most difficulty.
Yes.
In relation.
Actually, you know what? Now I think about it, George, I had one hero when I was young, and he changed my life.
Uh-huh.
And that was Bruce Lee.
Well, you know, I wondered about that when you from earlier conversation. I thought maybe that was the case.
Yeah, he changed my life. You know, I owe so much to martial arts for self-empowerment, and I watched so much about Bruce Lee. I bought all his books, and he was a philosopher. And I seen him being interviewed on TV one day, and the commentator said, "You know, you're a star." And Bruce Lee said, "I'm not a star, man. That word is an illusion. Now, if you call me a good actor, that's nice. But no, I'm just the same as anyone else." And he was my hero, and that gave me chills when I seen that as a young man, you know. And that sort of changed my life a bit as well. Yeah,
Yeah, and his inspiration was in a very positive manner, and
absolutely. Yeah,
he changed really a whole generation
he
of
did.
young
Yeah,
men.
he went against the grain about bringing his art to the westernized world because it was something that they really frowned on. But Bruce Lee was not a prejudiced man, you know,
Right.
and he said, why not show this beautiful art to the world?
Absolutely.
So, that's quite incredible.
I think we're down to about 3 or 4 minutes, Carl. It's just gotten away from us, and I'd like to give you an opportunity if we haven't talked about something that you'd like to share on.
I'd like to, first of all, thank you and thank everyone who's listening. And I really do believe we are in a huge shift at the moment. And love is the answer, you know. Our consciousness on a personal level is creating our reality. And on a mass consciousness it is as well. And I believe it also connects with the weather patterns, that when there's so much, you know, if you ever switch the TV on, people don't, I suppose it's like I'm preaching to the choir here, because I know a lot of people who are listening understand this anyway, you know, but if we can stand in our strength and spread this message as well a bit more, not in a preachy way, but post things on Facebook, you know, and let people know that you love them and bring more love into the world, less fear into the world. And I believe that we've got a beautiful future to look forward to, an amazing future, you know, where new technologies are going to come out. I watched the Thrive movie, and Foster Gamble, again, I think he's a brilliant man. I think he had a lot to lose by doing what he's done, but I think he's opened up to even more people. There's a group of people here in the Toronto area called the Collective Evolution, and the young awakened men, there's 3 of them, and Franco De Nicola, and they're sending things worldwide. And the more we believe it, the more we spread that love and energy, the more we're going to change our world, you know, and love is the answer.
Absolutely. Well, you know, one of the things that I see you doing really on a consistent basis, Carl, is complimenting people. You know, I see your byword is brilliant. which is a very nice thing to say to someone, you know, that hey, that was brilliant, you know. It's like, so you're a good guy, Carl. I'm glad to count you a friend these days. And you're writing a book, right?
I am, George. Yeah.
Well, when you get that book finished, if you want to come back on, contact me, send me a copy, and we'll have you back on.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay. I guess we've run out of time, Carl. Thank you again for your time, and I'll send you an email with the code, and we'll just kind of go from there.
That'd be great. Thanks, George. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, that was a good show tonight. I just, you know, Carl is a good guy. I could tell from his communications on Facebook that he was a pretty kind man, and I think that's hugely important in the shift that we're trying to bring about. So I've got a great guest lined up for next week. We're out of time, so I'm not going to be able to really tell you about that, but same time next week, every Tuesday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on sbnvideo.tv. Be sure and come back and check our show out again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.